your legal matters, ensuring your desired results. Our team of lawyers have over 40 years' experience dealing with immigration law, family law, civil litigation, criminal litigation, employment law, housing, and welfare benefit. At KACE Law Solicitors, we provide professional legal services with enthusiasm and passion. To find out about how we can help you, please call us today on 020-782-0164 and 0. Our 24 hours mobile line is 077-239-5093 and 0. For more information, email us on info@caselawsolicitors.co.uk or log on to our website at www.caselawsolicitors.co.uk. Our office is located at 81 Lothian Road, London, SW9 6TS. Contact us today and you will be glad you did. At KACE Law Solicitors, your peace is our priority.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. I am your host, Esther Olufemi. On behalf of KACE Law Solicitors, may I say a big thank you to our NHS. Oh gosh, what could we have done as a nation without you? Thanks for what you're doing now. Thanks for what you've done in the past. And thanks for what you are still going to do. I take a bow, NHS. Thank you so very much for what you're doing during these challenging periods for the nation at large. And I'm so glad to play a host to one of your own, a medical doctor with the NHS tonight in person of Dr. T. Ayodele Ajayi. Good evening, doctor.
Good evening.
A honor having you on this show tonight.
Thank you for having me on the show.
How have you been?
I've been very well.
Thank you specially for what you're doing for this nation at large at these very challenging periods.
It's our privilege and pleasure to be able to do that.
We are grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can people at home meet you? Who is Dr. T. Ayodele Ajayi?
Right. Okay. Thank you for asking and thank you for having me back on your show.
You're welcome.
So I'm Dr. T. Ayodele Ajayi. I'm a consultant psychiatrist and I work in the NHS. Part of my responsibilities, apart from being a clinician in the NHS, is also that I'm the regional lead for undergraduate psychiatry teaching in my organization. And there are a few other hats that I wear outside of the NHS. For instance, I do write a column for the Testify newspaper, which is on mental health and mental well-being. And I do also write a column for the Keep the Faith magazine, which is also on mental health and mental well-being.
Wow. It's a honor having you on this show again.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. It was the World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. That's correct. About 3 days ago?
3 days ago.
Tell us briefly about that, please.
Right. So the World Mental Health Day is an initiative started by the Mental Health Foundation, World Mental Health Foundation, and basically the purpose of that is to raise awareness about mental difficulties. This was started in 1992, and annually on the 10th of October every year, this is celebrated. And this year, the theme is greater investment, greater access, everyone, everywhere.
Wow.
And that's really very loaded.
Very loaded indeed.
It talks about the fact that as people who are influencers, everyone is an influencer in your own
world. Yeah.
There are people, you could be an influencer in your family, you could be an influencer at the place of work, and then going higher, you could be a manager, you could be a director, you could be the owner of an organization, you could be the leader of a church, for instance, you could be a pastor, you could be so those are things that make you a leader, and the question, the challenge to leaders and to everyone is, how do we increase the access, how do we increase investment into mentors in this day and age. So
wow,
that's what that's about.
Really loaded, and I'm very sure people benefited from the program. You have a mentoring program, you mentioned it briefly. You want to tell people out there, young people out there who are looking to, badge your profession in medical line, how can you help them?
That's quite an interesting question. So we run a mentoring program for people young black people who are from either black minority backgrounds or from socially disadvantaged backgrounds. And what we do is that we target people who have an aptitude towards studying medicine, and we put them into a mentoring scheme, which is really to encourage them, to give them opportunities, to support them in the application, to actually be able to make a successful application into medical school. The journey to medical school can be quite a challenging one. It's a very long one, and it involves a lot of processes. And so you need somebody to mentor, you need somebody to support you through that process and to give you the essential information that you need. And the sort of support that we provide includes helping people to get relevant work placement, helping them to critique their personal statement, giving them feedback on that, helping them to access and signposting them to resources to help them to prepare for interviews. And also we do organize an interview skills program to help people to prepare for the medical school interview.
Fantastic. Well done, Doctor. You're doing a fantastic job. Doctor's details is on the screen. Are you aspiring to pick up a career in the medical field? Doctor is your man. Please get in touch, and I'm sure you'll be glad you did. Let's get down to business tonight, Doctor. What are the causes of mental illnesses?
Right. Okay, that's quite a very big question, and
yes, it is.
It has a very broad answer as well. So there's a way to look at it. One of them are internal things, things that belong to that individual, and the other thing is the external things. So in terms of the internal things, one of them is genetics, in terms of the genes that we inherited from our parents. And there's not a lot that can be done about that, because the gene that you inherited is what you inherited. But there's a lot that can be done about other things. One of the other things that also causes mental illness is the traditional way or the habitual way by which we think, our thinking patterns.
Wow.
And then, of course, looking at the environment. Looking at the environment, it has to do with a lot of things. It has to do with stresses. It could be stress of bereavement. It could be stress of homelessness. It could be stress of debt management. It could be stress of housing. All of those things can actually tip somebody over into mental illness. And usually what we find is that it's not just one thing that causes somebody to go over the edge. It's usually a combination of a number of things. And of course, what I haven't also mentioned is the impact of substances that people use. For instance, sometimes when people are facing troubles or challenges in life, they turn to drugs and they turn to alcohol. And all of these have very harmful effects. We do know that the role of drugs and alcohol in mental illness is such that it compounds the problem. It makes it worse for people to get, it makes it worse for people to respond to treatment. It makes it more difficult. So people who are using substances are less likely to get better, because what it does is that the substances and the alcohol actually counteracts the effect of the medication that they are given. So it's not just one thing that causes mental illness. It's a combination of a lot of things are the reasons for mental illness. And you did mention, or you laid serious emphasis on stress. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So when people are going through stress, it could lead to mental illness.
That's
Is that what
correct.
you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. From your many years of experience, can you tell how bad mental health could impact someone's life? I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of patients with mental illness, which happened through whatever, like you said, accumulation and combination of all sorts. What would you say, from your experience, are the impacts of mental illness on someone's life?
Yeah. So the impact of mental illness on somebody's life can be very varied, and in fact, mental illness tends to affect every sphere of life.
Wow.
So looking from the individual themselves, if mental illness is not well managed, people might be able not to achieve their potential. So that could be their potential at work, their potential in education. It could also affect their potential in relationships.
Wow.
And we do also know that not only so, people who have mental illnesses, for instance, it might affect the way they interact in community. So it might affect their advantages in life. And of course, the other thing that we do know, which is hopefully something that we are continuing to fight, is the stigma that is associated with mental illness.
Exactly.
So these are things that people who have mental health problems confront. However, I think the good news is that this is a reason to seek help rather than shy away from help, because the good news is that a lot of mental problems are actually treatable, and some of them, a good number of them, are also manageable. So the notion that mental problems are a life sentence is no longer the case. These days, there's quite a lot of help that is available out there for people who have a mental problem.
Interesting. You're very right to mention the fact that there is this stigma on mental health, and someone going through it might not even want to talk about it for the reactions they would get. Oh, I don't want people to know I'm going through this. Oh, how will my friends react if they know I've got mental illness? What would be your message tonight for people? I was going to ask you for symptoms of mental illness, and then what would you say to people who have those symptoms? What should they do? How should they treat stigma? What should they do in speaking up and seeking help? And what are the signs to look for? Because I don't think mental illness is for a particular group of people.
No.
It could happen to anybody at any time. So what should we look out for?
Okay, so that's a very important question as well. It's also easy when we put this into categories.
Okay.
So if we look at mental illness, always manifests in three areas of life.
Okay.
It's in the behavior, emotions, and thinking. Those are the three major areas to look out for. So look at behavior, look at emotions, and look at thinking. So let's look at emotions first, because that's the one that sometimes becomes very apparent. So it could be feelings of anxiety, somebody who is just always keyed up all the time. They're always, even when there's nothing to be anxious about, or when everything is going right in life, they are just not able to relax. That might be that something is going wrong. There are also people who are who feel morbidly sad, or who feel intensely sad, or who feel abnormally sad. It might be, you might not be able to find the reason for the sadness. They're just sad. But they just feel sad all the time. And the sadness is such that it's not shiftable. For normal sadness, if somebody receives bad news, they go for an interview, they don't get it, or they apply for a job, they don't get it, or they failed an exam. They might feel sad, but only for a short while.
They get over it.
After a while, they get over it. But for people with mental illness, that's of sadness is not shiftable.
Wow.
Even when they do the things that they should enjoy, like maybe somebody enjoys playing football or watching football, or playing rugby, or being with their grandchildren, whatever it is that gives them pleasure usually. When pleasure is no longer obtained from the usual things that people obtain pleasure from, that might also be a sign of mental illness. And of course, the other features to look out for will be lack of energy for no apparent reason. People are sleeping
low.
There's just no energy to do anything, no motivation to get involved in the things that they usually get involved in. And of course, the other things will be things like losing concentration, not being able to concentrate, not being able to engage, and then social withdrawal. Somebody just finds that they are no longer able to face the world. That's really the way to describe it. They just feel the thought of being in a social gathering or social setting feels very overwhelming. So, and of course, there's a thinking pattern that is also associated with mental illness in terms of people who particularly begin to think that they might begin to think that the world is against them, there are people who are against them. So those are things that one should look out for. And of course, sleep and appetite is one of the other things to look at. When people are not able to sleep at night, or when their appetite is changed, either they eat a lot more or they eat a lot less, then that might be...
Wow, seriously, a lot of people would have one or two or three of these key things to look out for in mental illness. So the studio line is on there. If you want to call in, we have just few minutes. You have to come back on this show, Doctor. We can't finish our questions tonight. We should be able to take a call or two in case you want to ask Doctor a question tonight. Okay, so if anybody has any of these symptoms, what should they do? Where should they go to look for help?
Okay, I think that's a very important question. And the most important message that I want to leave tonight, that I want to put out there tonight, is really that there's help for mental health problems. We have passed the age where people feel that they need to shy away, or that they are not going to get help, or they are going to be labeled. The reality is that there's help available, and the first place you always go to will be the GP. The general practitioner in the UK are the first port of call to always go to for help. General practitioners are the ones that handle possibly about 80% of mental illnesses.
Okay.
So, but there is also what is called the specialist mental health teams, which are community mental health teams also. And those teams, but in order to access those specialist help, it's sold through the GP. It's a general practitioner that one is to go to. And the general practitioners are very well equipped. GPs are very well equipped. Some of them even have psychiatric nurses that work with them. So they've got all the resources that they need to make decisions and to signpost people if they feel that is beyond their remit of expertise. Okay.
If you're having any of those signs, you can't sleep, you're stressed, some people will just cry uncontrollably.
Yeah, absolutely.
No appetite, anxiety. Please call your GP. There is help for mental health. Don't wait until it gets really bad before you look for help. There is this surge in mental health issues among young people, especially during this pandemic. How do we deal with this? What should parents look out for? How should parents deal with this?
So we do know, yes, that the reality is that there is a lot of information out there showing that there's increasing anxiety among young people, children and young adults at this time. Increasing levels of anxiety about their education, anxiety about their future, anxiety about the impact that COVID-19 is going to have on the economic world that they are entering into. So what are the symptoms? One of them is anxiety, obviously. People becoming more anxious, and that could manifest in a number of ways depending on the age of the child or depending on the age of the person. It also depends on the way they cope with stress, and it also depends on the way they usually, how resilient they are in terms of bouncing back. So what are the other symptoms? For instance, you could find that a child who has not been bedwetting before, who's dry, begins to bedwet. For the younger children. You could find that the children are biting their nails. You could find that they have nightmares. And then even some children could complain of symptoms like complaining of stomach ache. Yeah. Some children, it could be that they get anxious about going to school.
Wow.
Because obviously, depending on how old they are, relating school to being outside the, going to school is being outside the comfort of their home and the safety of their home. So it means that they are exposing themselves to vulnerability. So those are part of the things that children could and of course sleep and appetite as well in young people. They could become withdrawn. So they just withdraw into themselves. So the rule of thumb is that the parents or the carers are the ones that know their children well.
Look out for these signs.
So
and once you pick any of those, get in touch with your GP. Is the message tonight from Dr. Ajayi. We've got to go. We will need you to come back on this show. We've not even dealt with half of our questions tonight, but our time is gone. We've got to go. You have more questions to ask Doctor before we bring him back on this show next time. His details are there on the screen. Please get in touch with Dr. Ajayi and he will be able to help you, signpost you, encourage you. And those who are looking to pick up a career in medical line, please get in touch with Dr. Ajayi as well. I'm hoping we'll be able, by the grace of God, to have him on the show soon. You want to say a good night and your signing out words for people tonight before we go?
Right. So the final thing I want to say tonight, again, is something I've said before, that really, if you do have mental problems, please do seek help. There is help available. Seek help.
There is help available. Our time is gone. We'll see you same time, same station next week. Till then, stay safe and God bless. Good night.
Thinking of a well-experienced solicitor to deal with your legal matters? Think KACE Law Solicitors. We are a group of experts who knows how to deal with your legal matters, ensuring your desired results. Our team of lawyers have over 40 years' experience dealing with immigration law, family law, civil litigation, criminal litigation, employment law, housing, and welfare benefit. At KACE Law Solicitors, we provide professional legal services with enthusiasm and passion. To find out about how we can help you, please call us today on 020-782-0164 and 0. Our 24 hours mobile line is 077-239-5093 and 0. For more information, email us on info@caselawsolicitors.co.uk or log on to our website at www.caselawsolicitors.co.uk. Our office is located at 81 Lothian Road, London, SW9 6TS. Contact us today and you will be glad you did. At KACE Law Solicitors, your peace is our priority.